Check the mic, we're going live. Stories told, they rise and dive. Topics fresh with every spin. You won't guess what's coming in. Every week a new surprise. Minds awake, never lies. Conversations bold and free. Tune in now, just wait and see. This podcast is uncalled for. Catch us here, there's so much more. Laughs and tales you can't ignore. A journey that will leave you floored. In the night or in
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this podcast Uncalled For. I have a special guest with me today. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Sure, happy to be here. My name is Matthew Adams, and I'm a Democratic candidate for Assembly in District 9 in California, which is the Central Valley, so that covers Lodi, Galt, and Manteca as the major areas.
Yeah, I saw your website and saw the map south of Sacramento area, right? So,
That's right, that's right.
all right. So, this is a legislative seat, I guess. Would
It is,
be
yeah. It's the lower house of the legislature. So, like
Okay,
most
be the-
states, there's two houses. There's the upper, which is the Senate, and the lower, which is the Assembly. So it's very similar to the Congress, which on the federal level, of course, has the upper house as the Senate, lower house as the House,
Mhm.
just like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds about right. So I believe you're the first active candidate to be on the podcast for any off. Well, aside from myself, I ran for office a couple times
I was
myself.
gonna say, yeah, you're a candidate, former candidate yourself, right?
Yeah,
So
in my case, a couple times try and run for Overland Park City Council. So Overland Park, a major suburb of Kansas City in
mhm.
Kansas, and ran for the state Senate, uh, District 21, which is my part of Overland Park and all of the city of Lenexa, which is right next door.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love talking to fellow candidates. We have
Hmm.
a unique insight into, I think, the process.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I also gather from your websites you following the Bernie Sanders camp a little bit.
I would say so. I would say I'm more progressive. It's an uphill climb. This district is a
Hmm.
pretty Republican area. I'm going against a Republican incumbent who has been in office for 10 years, and the area that I am hoping to represent is pretty much in line with that. For this assembly district, it's carved out. Basically, all of the major Democratic population areas have been removed. The best we've got is a couple of purple areas, I would say, like Manteca's pretty purple, maybe leaning blue, but everything else is either uh, leaning red or red in the area. So, I've got my personal political beliefs and I put them all out on the website there. I'm for Medicare for all and, housing for all and all of those things that I really do genuinely believe. It'll be tough to have, some compromising conversations with people to kind of get them to meet in wherever we can on those issues, but I think when you talk to voters of any political bent, they want authenticity, and that is what I believe, and that's what I would do if I were representing this area and I'm
Hmm.
assembly. So I'm probably more progressive than the average voter here, but I think there's a lot of other things we can connect on that hopefully, we'll get into what those issues are.
Yeah. So my part of the state is I live pretty much in the bluest part of the state now, and it's been trending blue this past decade. However, it's more of a, centrist blue, like
I see.
yeah,
Like
uh,
Biden or yeah.
yeah, Mike Biden or Hillary or
Yeah.
something like that. Although I will say Biden uh, did he says he was a moderate and everything, but a lot of the things he did could be seen as progressive. So
That's true. That's true. It's always tough to see like who is a real moderate versus who's more progressive based on how they message themselves versus what they do. So good point. Good point.
yeah, exactly, uh, exactly. So my Senate race that was back in 2016, so almost 10 years ago now. Uh, Probably 10 years ago when this releases. um, I actually got primaried from the centrist wing of the party and wound up losing big time.
Mm.
and that's created a bit of a rift between me and the party establishments here.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Oh, it gets better. The guy that I tried to knock off for city council um, back in 21 was the same guy who primaried me
Oh
in
man.
16. Yeah. Uh, so also in 16, it was a Republican incumbent by the name of Greg Smith, who his big thing was his teenage daughter was kidnapped and murdered. So he runs on that murder. I don't care if he's offended by it. That's my observation. And B uses his platform to loosen gun restrictions here in Kansas. So so now everywhere it is, they call it a constitutional carry, where you can carry pretty much anywhere concealed without a permit, and that's some scary stuff.
It is. It is.
He gets primaried by a more centrist Republican. She winds up winning the whole race, and then 2 years later, she switches parties and is now she's now the incumbent state senator and a Democrat. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting
mhm,
play out there.
yeah, and I tell you what, I was so impressed with the way she handled that whole primary thing compared to the kid who was primarying me. I was like, you know what? If I wind up going down the primary, I'm going to support this candidate, and then find out that she switched parties a couple years later. So I feel vindicated by that personally. So,
Sure, sure.
mhm, yeah. So do you see the same dynamic happening in your district by
The
chance?
same
Or
dynamic being just
yeah,
the
the centrists versus the progressives, and
well, I mean, as I said, it's a pretty conservative
yeah,
district, so there's often not a lot of inter-party conflict on the Democratic side, just
hmm,
because there haven't been that many Democratic candidates that have been running in the area.
right,
So not particularly. And on the Republican side, unfortunately as well, there hasn't been a lot of competition either. So it's kind of just been whoever is the incumbent obviously remains entrenched and they run for office and then they kind of just hold on to the seat as long as they have it, as long
hmm,
as they like to have it. And then whoever takes their place after they retire, move on to higher office, or lose in the general is usually very similar. So, unfortunately, no, there hasn't been a lot of competition on the party level in my
hmm,
area.
sure, sure, yeah, it's interesting you say that because uh, outside of California, we think of California as this big blue behemoth of a state, but really you still see the urban rural divide, right?
Yeah,
Where,
definitely. This district is, I mean, a key example of that. As I said, I mean, the way that this assembly district is carved out,
mhm,
it's basically all rural areas. It's geographically quite large. It extends from like the east and south part of Sacramento County, and then the main part of San Joaquin County, and then a little bit into Stanislaus County, which is going to be nothing to anybody not in California. But again, there's a map on my campaign website at
yeah,
Atoms for Assembly. You can take a look and kind of visualize the area, but it's quite massive, the
mhm,
geographic area. But the people that live in there, it's basically the same as any other assembly district, which are usually confined to just one county. It's a lot of very small rural towns. You know, I've been
yeah,
making a list of all the areas and all the cities that I would reach out to and have to tour if I'm going out to campaign. And, you know, I'm putting the population next to them so I can see like how much of community am I going to be talking to here. And the number that is like in the low thousands
mhm,
is most of these cities. So it's a pretty rural district, which makes it a pretty conservative Republican district.
right.
Despite the fact that most of California, obviously most of our population
Los
is,
Angeles, San
yes, San
Francisco,
Francisco, Sacramento, all these larger
San
cities,
Diego.
San Diego,
Mhm,
although San Diego's its own thing, but
yeah,
mostly, you know, urban, mostly
mhm,
liberal, and then those carry the states. If you look at the statewide presidential
Hmm.
results, governor, statewide results, they're all pretty conservative, or sorry, pretty democratic. And you'd think that's the end of the story. But if you look at it, it's like 60-40 most of the time for these things, 60% Democrat, 40% Republican. Those Republicans
Hmm.
have to live somewhere, and
Yeah.
they live
Yeah.
in a lot of the rural areas.
Yeah. So, yeah, locally we have, I'd say our blue areas are the Kansas City area, where I am, both Wyandotte and Johnson County. Then, right next door would be Douglas County. That's Lawrence, University of Kansas
Hmm.
is there. Then Topeka, Shawnee County next door to that. That's the state capital. A lot of people say, well, what about Wichita? Well, Wichita it may be blue around there, but that is a very red area around Wichita. In fact, I would say most of our state's problems come out of Wichita.
As
Um,
soon as like you get further away from the college, I suppose, or
right, right,
yeah.
right. Also, Wichita is that's the Koch brothers are based
Oh, is it?
there. Yeah. So yeah. But other than those cities, the rest of the state is very rural. In
Sure,
fact, I
sure.
drive like half hour west or half hour south of here. I'm in a rural area. So
Hmm.
and uh and then we're right next door to Missouri, of course. Kansas City being basically saddling Kansas and Missouri.
Right.
I'm I'm we're going to talk about gerrymandering in just seconds, but I'm of the opinion that pretty much the entire Kansas City metro area should be its own state at this point. Because both Topeka and Jefferson City are screwing with our area. Uh, right.
Yeah, and I imagine it's distinct enough culturally and politically that it could probably carry.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Missouri, we think of as a red state now, but historically, it's always been one of those purple states. It could go either way
Yeah.
because of Kansas City, because of St. Louis there too. A lot of people point to Columbia, right just north of Jefferson City, right in the middle of the state. That's a college town too, University of
Hmm.
Missouri there too. But it has its own version of Wichita called Springfield. Um, and yeah, that gets me now into the whole thing of gerrymandering. So you may have seen in the news lately that Missouri decided, which currently has a Republican majority in both their House and Senate, they decided to do a midterm gerrymander of the
Yep.
state, basically cut, and it affects Kansas City, especially because it's cutting its pretty in a um, in a very weird sense between three House districts, and I'm talking U.S. House here,
Yeah.
right? Which would pretty much wipe out a Democratic seat. Uh,
Yeah,
held a
that's
long
hopping
time,
on that trend.
yeah, held a long time by Kansas City's former mayor Emmanuel Cleaver. um, who, by the way, spoke at my college graduation.
Oh, very cool.
How cool is that? Yeah. Um, where over in Kansas, they gerrymandered our states as well. So now you have Lawrence, which has absolutely no business being in the first congressional district, in the first congressional district. So that's putting it with the rest of Western Kansas. We want to talk about big,
Mm,
right? Then you have Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County being split along Interstate 70. So north of 70 is now the second district with uh, Topeka and uh, most of the eastern part of the states, and then the southern half of Wyandotte, south of 70, staying in the third district, which includes all of Johnson County, and they tacked on a few rural counties as well. And the entire idea was to get Sharice Davids voted out of office, our current congresswoman, and turns out that has not worked. So, uh, but but if it was up to them, they would try to pull that again and everything just to create an just artificially create another Republican seat. So,
Yeah, and we're seeing that across the country, right? I
yeah,
mean, it's far
and you're
from
and you're seeing the reverse of it in your states, right? And particularly in response to Texas was the first to really kick this off, right?
yeah, yeah, California is doing something to respond to these Republican states doing the very thing that you're just describing, redrawing the districts mid-decade. Normally, these districts are not drawn again until after the census every 10 years. The
Exactly.
Republicans have been directed by Donald Trump and his administration that they want
Mhm.
to shore up their seat gain in the House coming up on 2026. So they're saying, let's redraw the maps now. Let's make it
Mhm.
so there's more likely to be a Republican or more Republicans coming from your state into the US
Mhm.
Congress than we would normally expect given the district. California and our governor, Gavin Newsom, has seen this and responded by asking the state legislature, which just recently passed
Mhm.
Proposition 50, what it would go on to become, the Redistricting Response Act would be balancing out the losses of Democratic seats in these states like Missouri or Texas and all sorts of states across the union that would California now be able to put in those if this were to pass after the California voters take vote on it in
Mhm.
November, redraw districts. So we'd have five more Democratic seats in theory coming out of California. This is
Sure.
different, of course, than what is happening in all of those other Republican states because it is being presented to the voters. They are getting a chance to weigh in on do we actually want to
Yeah.
do this? And we are framing it as a response to something that is happening elsewhere, whereas the Republicans are kind of just doing it to do it
Mhm.
because they are worried about losing seats in the House in 2026. And I think they rightfully should be. I think
They
the
should
Republican
be, yeah,
Party has
because
been
they've
incredibly unpopular during this administration over the last couple of years. And historically, what we see at the midterm for every presidential term, the party that is in control will lose seats in the House. Oftentimes, they lose control of the House if they have it. And that's just a typical presidency. As we know, the Donald Trump presidency is far from typical and historically unpopular and
Mhm.
continuing to get more unpopular as the days go by. So this
Oh
is
yeah,
a
no
fear
kidding.
that they have that is real, that they're trying to shore up. And we just want to reflect reality, that if you're unpopular, you lose seats, and that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, uh, that's a great point. Clinton, I maintain Clinton was probably one of the better presidents we've had in my lifetime, along with Obama and Biden. But Clinton in particular, um, the country was in a much different state then. And then '94 comes along. You have Republicans taking over the House and Newt Gingrich becoming the speaker and his contract on America.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, Clinton is impeached for bullshit reasons. Um, and of course, um, about that same time, that's when we had the media uh, apparatus that we see now
Right.
starts to take place. Rush Limbaugh was huge at the time, and he made his bones demonizing Democrats and certainly demonizing Clinton. And then I think it was '96 was when Fox News became a thing.
Mhm.
And I think it all went downhill from there in terms of uh, discourse, and the parties have just been drifting further and further apart ever since to the point that we're at now, where we have the other sides. You heard about the shooting in Utah
Of course.
last week, yeah, yeah. That shooting happens. They find the kid is far right wing, which being an ex-Mormon myself, I'm not surprised because the LDS Church is a very right-wing uh, church.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Even compared to most other churches, which are fairly conservative as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then you hear the aforementioned Mr. Trump trying to blame progressives and the left in general on that murder. Like, no, we're not the ones fomenting all this violent rhetoric. That, that's something you need to look in the mirror for. So,
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to talk about, the presidencies over the last couple of decades,
Hmm.
what president would have seen the violent act that took place on that day versus, the shooting that we all saw
Right.
versus the school shooting and all of the shootings that have been taking place, and
Oh yeah.
immediately say this needs to be blamed on somebody, and this needs to be an excuse to turn the dial up, to make things more heated, make things more violent in our rhetoric and our actions. What president would do that other than Donald Trump, right? Because that's the
Exactly.
way that he's raised his base. That's the way that he's become politically popular and politically as influential as he has, is running off the backs of these violent incidents and trying to incite violent incidents. I mean, I'm not going to say that, he wants this violence to happen. He probably, who's to say? But he likes the rhetoric. This is the kind of stuff that is red meat to his base. No other president, even
Hmm.
Republicans, would view what happened this last week and say, this is great. This is something that I would love to talk about.
Hmm.
Because for most average people, let alone presidents, it's a tragedy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
these sort of
absolutely.
things are something that should bring us together and say, we need to cool things down. Let's come together. Let's take this opportunity to look at why this happened and how we can fix it. I mean, you may have seen the viral clip of Trump was on Fox News the next day or two after, and they
Oh,
asked
I
him,
heard about
"What
that.
would you like to do? Like, how can we heal this country?" We got a lot of people going back and forth on the
Hmm.
Democratic side and the Republican side, and he says, "Frankly, I couldn't care less." He's not interested in using anything to unite the country because he's never actually wanted to unite the country. And it's
Hmm.
dangerous, and we're increasingly seeing it after moments like this.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So hopefully, Democrats can reclaim the House this election cycle, but they're making it difficult for us, no question about it. And that Missouri plan I talked about, that is going to people have already filed lawsuits against it. So hopefully it doesn't pass, and we still have two out of eight seats in Missouri remain Democratic, but we shall see.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that is the other part of this that people don't talk about as much is it is often illegal to do a lot of the things that are being done
mhm.
here, to drag the districts in a certain way or the other. I mean, who knows how the Supreme Court is going to rule on anything these days, but in the past, the Supreme Court has ruled against gerrymandering. A
Yeah.
lot of the circuit courts have ruled against gerrymandering, and they've been unfortunately wobbly on that in recent years. But there's a reason that this kind of stuff is not usually allowed and not usually done because drawing lines explicitly based on partisan
Hmm.
partisanship is not any way to better the representation that people are going to get, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
geographically, the lines could just, I mean, everybody says like, let's just draw them like easy squares, like let's any weird shapes, let's just do all
Hmm.
those, do those, no more. Whether it's that easy or not, it's certainly more fair than saying we're going to draw people from, Western Kansas all the way to connect to the other side just so we can
Right.
have these representations that we want. It's power begetting power and people, using their corruption to get things through, which is
Hmm.
far from only happening in redistricting efforts, but certainly happening in the redistricting efforts.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, I believe you guys have an independent redistricting commission.
Yes.
We do
Yeah.
not. That's part of the that's a part of the issue. I think. Uh, I think if there is one reform I would do uh, nationwide, it would be to introduce redist redistricting commissions, made it completely nonpartisan, just based purely on the geography of what's going to work for everyone in a state, as compact and as square, if you will, as possible
Yeah.
with
And
these.
I mean, it's got its problems that we have our independent redistricting commission in California
Mhm.
every 10 years. It's certainly not creating perfect districts, but it's better to have people that have no skin in the game drawing these things than people who are basically deciding what their job and where they're going to be
Mhm.
instead. So the districting that we have gotten in California since that passed in the 2010s has been a lot better. We've seen a lot more fair, competitive elections up and down the state. Obviously, again, there's always room for improvement, but compared to where a lot of the other states in the union are, it's a much better system. I
Oh
agree.
yeah, yeah. All right, and and of course we got we got to bring religion into the conversation too, because
Oh,
I am
okay.
very much, um, again, being in Kansas, I witnessed myself just how terrible it could be to um, be a theocrat
Hmm.
running estates. We for crying out loud, we had Sam Brown back as our governor. That alone should scare uh, anyone. All right. Um, and yes, he was as terrible as he is talked about. He very nearly destroyed the states with basically trying to introduce Reaganomics at a state level,
Mm.
and wound up close to bankrupting the state. That before he mercifully got out of there. That's one thing I will credit Trump for is he got that uh, guy out of uh, out of office. Uh, uh, they reversed his tax cuts, and
Mm.
then so so yeah, tax cuts don't necessarily translate to uh, everyone's going benefits because this is a cautionary tale that no, they won't. It'll just make things worse. So,
It's true. It's true. I mean, people love the idea of a tax cut because what they'll think is I'm going to end up paying less money at the end of the year because I'm not paying all that money to taxes. I
mhm,
think economically, what we have seen, studies have shown, people's pocketbooks have shown, you do end up paying more if
mhm.
less is covered by the government, right?
Yeah.
Because things still need to be paid for, and it's usually a lot better and more efficient if the government can handle a lot of the social services.
Hmm.
If people are on the hook for their own social services, healthcare, buying food, road repair. Cities have to take those funds from somewhere. Taxpayers still have to pay into those funds either out of their own pockets because they'll have their own troubles that would have been covered by a collective, bank or not bank,
Hmm.
a collective fund that the
Yeah.
government would have collected. That money still has to be paid by somebody. And
Hmm.
if we're not paying into it for the government's purposes, then it's coming out of your own pocketbook. And then people are like, well, why am I losing more money? And that's
Right.
why. So these tax cuts, I agree, are incredibly harmful.
Hmm. And they're also misleadingly um, proposed, I think.
Yeah.
When when Republicans talk about tax cuts, they're always talking about income tax cuts, which are the more progressive uh, taxes. So we cut taxes on the wealthy, they'll put more money. That's the thing. That's thinking, right?
Yeah.
Well, you still have, like you said, you still have to pay for stuff. So if you're cutting income taxes, what's there? What else is there? You got property taxes and sales taxes, both of which are very regressive, and you're more likely to pay if you are poor. So,
Yeah. And that's a good shout out that often these are misleading in who the tax cuts are actually for.
mhm,
When they say they're cutting taxes, most of the time they're not talking about the average American.
yeah,
You probably are actually you might get a smaller portion of a tax cut. You might have a slightly lower rate than you did last year, but the largest decrease in tax cuts are always going to be for the wealthy because they're the ones that are going to be the ones in the people's ear and saying we need all this money so we can do X, Y, and Z. And whether the people in power actually believe that that money is going to trickle down or go to all these other communities like the wealthy say it is, or
mhm,
whether they're just wealthy themselves and are benefiting from it themselves, or both, ultimately the average taxpayer is really not going to get the benefit of
yeah,
these tax cuts anyway.
yeah. In part because the wealthy people, they're just going to pocket that money. That they're not
Yeah.
going to Uh, that's something I give Clinton a lot of credit for was um, when he did his tax plan. He said, uh, "All you wealthy guys who own businesses, make sure you're paying your employees, give them raises and stuff." So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean what the wealthy do with that money is most of the times they'll either keep it for themselves, right?
Hmm.
Or they will donate it back into the same politicians to ensure that they can get
Yeah.
more of those favorable policies for them in the first place. And I mean to connect that back to my own race here, the guy that I'm running against, his name is Heath Flora. He's the Republican minority leader in the assembly. and he is a very prolific fundraiser that I'm
Hmm.
going up against. He has over $1 million in his campaign account right now, and he could easily get 1 million more if he felt threatened, I'm sure. All of the races that he has run in the last couple of years in my district have gone basically unchallenged. It's been basically him against either a write-in candidate or
Hmm.
a third-party candidate. And yet, every election, he continues to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are not real campaigns. So the money that is being spent on these campaigns is not for campaign purposes. The wealthy
Hmm.
are just taking this money, putting it into their favored candidate. He's spending it on personal trips. He's spending it on, exorbitant food and, he went to the Kentucky Derby and, he's living it up because
Hmm.
he's passing or preventing things from going into law that the Republican donors would prefer him to be in place for that to do. And he's benefiting from it. And we continue to have this system that rewards people who get paid or pay into this system, and it's awful. I mean, Citizens United, the dark money
Yeah.
influence in our politics over the last decade plus has really, really corrupted politics on every single level in every single state. And we haven't really reckoned with that in a real way. The longer this continues to go on, the more people will get away with things, and the more evil we will frankly see in our
Yeah.
political system. Because, I mean, it's cliche to say money is the root of all evil, but I think that
In
money often
politics, it
leads
is
to
absolutely.
a lot of evil things are happening in politics because of the money, unfettered money that is coming in that just is leading to these horrific corruption
Hmm.
incidences.
Yeah. Again, I'm in Kansas. We have the Koch brothers, and
Yeah.
they're Americans for Prosperity. They like to call themselves, and so so yeah, I've seen firsthand exactly what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Yeah, we gotta get money out of politics,
Yeah.
pure and simple, and that's why I'm glad to be a Bernie Democrats, and I'm glad to have a Bernie Democrat to talk to today. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the main reason I got into this race is because we
yeah.
need to get the money out of politics. I mean, the fact that a guy like this can run completely unchecked and have all this money flowing in and out and is publicly reported too. Like it's
Oh yeah.
it's not a secret. People just either can't afford to care, the average voter, right? They've got a lot of other things going
Hmm.
on, and I completely understand that money in politics is not something that is in your face every day that you'll see on the news for one reason or another doesn't get
Hmm.
covered as much, right?
Right.
Um, it's a lot easier to focus on the things you do see every day, and think that's a higher priority. But at the end of the day, the government touches every aspect of your life, and the people in government are the people that you would want to protect you from these harmful influences and to better the lives that you have and the things you
Hmm.
do see every day. If they're not looking out for you, if they're looking out for the people that are paying into their own pocketbook, it does have a real impact on every single thing that affects your life, whether you are aware of it or not. And it's really sad that that's not covered as one of the biggest issues in the nation because it absolutely is.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And we are very close to running out of time. So, uh, closing thoughts?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate talking about, anything related to politics and my campaign. And it's great to get an insight into the other states here. But for
Yeah.
anyone listening that wants to check out my campaigns, Adams for Assembly, that's the number four, adamsforassembly.com. I'm running again in California's Assembly District 9 in a race in 2026. And, hopefully I can have a lot more conversations and get the word out. This is a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right. So it's a 26 race. Okay. So oh yeah, you'll still be running by the time this releases.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
all right. Yeah. Yeah. I did the same thing. So, yeah. Yeah. File a year in advance and, all that. So, yeah. All right. Well, best of luck to your campaign and thanks for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to come on and talk with me. So, and for the rest of you at home, thank you for listening, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you.
This podcast is Uncalled For, is hosted, produced, and edited by myself, Mike Chernevsky. Our opening music is the This Podcast is Uncalled For theme. It is created at suno.com, suno.com. Our outro music for this episode is Homeless California by Mon Plaisir. Is licensed on Creative Commons 1.0 universal license. So it's under the public domain, and you can find this at freemusicarchive.org. And once again, thank you to Matthew for taking time out of what's going to be a very busy schedule ahead of him. I wish him all the best. And if you live in his district, please consider giving him your vote. Thank you.
Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.
Do we have like an outline of what we're gonna get into, or kind of just
We'll
figure
just
it out
we'll just let the conversation flow. So